that's the one thing we got. And I said, what about breakfast at Tiffany's? She said, I think I remember the film, and as I recall, I think both kinda liked it. And I said, well, that's the one thing we got.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us here today for this Lunch and Learn, Hot Modeling a Step Above Essentials. My name is Lars, and I'm going to spend the next hopefully about 45 minutes or so talking a little bit about trying to take hot modeling, I don't know, to the next level. But the idea behind this Lunch and Learn kind of like comes from Kevin and I talking about, what else can we kind of like show people that people could benefit from, and this is getting recorded and will be available up on our YouTube channel also. If you write down my email address here, you can definitely give me any comments or feedback in regards to this, and I can also send you the link and stuff like that. Really, one of the things that helped me a lot was when I started to see how other people were using Solidworks on a pod level. So that was what our idea is. It kind of like came from Kevin's. He did one on large assembly mode. I don't know if any of you guys ever gone up to Cat Dimensions website. And on our website, if you go under resources and go to videos, you will find that there's a bunch of different pre-recorded lunch and learns in here. And Kevin did a great one on large assembly best practices. And that was kind of like where we got the idea about maybe also do one on part. And possibly, if you guys like this, we also would maybe do one on drawings. So any ideas you guys have for these lunch and learns, any comments, definitely please feel free to email us. You can email me here at Lars at Cat Dimensions. So this lunch and learn here, really kind of like planning on talking about, you kind of like a level above essentials. So I know we have a lot of different people who chimed in on this lunch and learn, and at different skill levels. So I am going to go fairly quickly through the different things I want to talk about. But again, don't forget that if you think things are going a little bit too fast, that you can email me at lars@catdimensions.com, and then you can always pause play through the video. Pretty much what we're going to talk about today is I made a little menu here. This is looks very much like the Cheesecake Factory's menu. This is some of the things that we're going to kind of like cross into today, talking about. So kind of like thinking about it, that you have used SolidWorks for a while, and you where should you be at, or what are some of the tips and tricks you could use that you maybe knew about, forgotten about, or we have this tendency to kind of like get stuck in our ways of doing things. So that's what I'm hoping today with this lunch and learn, that you kind of like maybe can be reminded or see some new tips and tricks on this. Again, Lars@catdimensions.com. If you email me, I'll send you the link when it gets loaded up to our webpage, and also I can also send you this PowerPoint with this list and any questions for it. So really what I want to get into today is, well, before I jump into SolidWorks, there's another tool that I think that if you're somewhat a serious user of SolidWorks, you should be familiar with, and that tool is Solidworks Rx. Solidworks Rx is if you hit your start menu down here and you type in RX, then Solidworks Rx will appear here. And if you click on that, that's a little program that's been with SolidWorks for a few years. This little menu opens up here, and this is a really neat tool to know exists if you don't know that it exists. If you hit the diagnostics, it will take in and kind of like show what your system, what capabilities you have on your system. But what I want to point out is your graphics card. Hopefully you have a certified graphics card on your computer, and if you do, right here it will tell you if you are on the latest supported graphics card driver from SolidWorks. I am. If you're not, there will actually be a little button here and you can go and grab it. I look at this Solidworks Rx very much like you wouldn't drive around in your car without changing the oil at some point. And this is kind of like the same thing with this Solidworks Rx. Another tab that is really neat here is system maintenance. In here, you can do a cleanup of your temporary files. You can even go in here on your system and run a system disk check and also defrag. And then when you hit the maintenance here, you can actually schedule if you want to get it done now or if you want to do it, at a later point. So maybe this can take a while to run through. So maybe you want to do that the last thing on Friday before you go to weekend. But again, if you're using SolidWorks more than a couple of hours a day and you kind of like, want to take it a step above, what I will call the essentials level, Jeff Gordon's pit crew will never send him out on the track without making sure that there's oil in this car. And this is kind of like some of those maintenance things. So again, the Solidworks Rx exists right if you go on your start menu, Rx, and there you go. So that's a tool to know that SolidWorks has in there. I'm going to be running SolidWorks straight out of the box. I have cleared all my settings. This is just the way it is when you open up SolidWorks the first time, except that I pinned my menu up here. But that's really what we're going to start from. Another thing I want to show, so if I go in here and say I want to create a new document here, and we all know we get this menu, and hopefully you know that if you go to advanced, you have a couple of other in here. Now if I start up a part document, you know that you can change the units down here, and maybe I want to make another part template. That's another thing I think that you should be aware of when you're working with SolidWorks, that you can save out different part templates. So if you go here and you say save as, and you hit the drop down here, then you can save out as a part template. And now I could go in here and I could save one that is part metric. Now some of you guys are already familiar with this stuff. Some of you guys maybe this is new, but again this can be handy. Now you could take it a step further. You could, one of the things that I found was I always started in SolidWorks, I always started with a rectangle. So you could go ahead here and create a rectangle that you predefine with some kind of a size to maybe make this here, now we're in metric, so maybe make this 100 millimeters to 50 millimeters, and then when I go into extrude it, maybe say tennis fines, we're just going to hit the green check mark. Now I could also save this out as a part template. So if I went over here and I say save as, and I now save that out as a part template, this could now be my part block. And now anytime that I just got to spell that right. Anytime that I start up a new document, I would have this predefined, right? So if you get sick or tired of always starting up with a block, now I have actually that part block that I could open up there. So that could be handy. You could make one for round, you could make one with different things in it. You could have a whole part in here. So this is just one of those things to be aware of, that you should be, know these things, or should use these things, maybe consider using these things if you are taking it to the next level, as I call it. Another thing is the SolidWorks options. That's another thing to be aware of. We're going to the SolidWorks options up here, and there's a lot of stuff in here in the different options. Be aware of too that Kevin did another great lunch and learn on all these different system options in here a while back, and you can find that again if you go to catdimensions.com and under resources videos, as I showed before, there you can find those. There's a lot of options in here, but one of the things that some people don't know is that when SolidWorks put new features into SolidWorks, many times those new features are not checked by default. And that's because that they got some feedback from users that when they switch to a new version, 2014 is coming up, that people were kind of like confused because all these new features was turned on. So by default, a lot of them is not turned on. So if you didn't know that, you need to, when you install a new version of SolidWorks, you need to go in here and turn them on. One was feature freeze that was introduced a couple of years ago, right? If you turn that one on, you now get that yellow bar up here that you can freeze features. This is great if you're using multiple configurations and you don't want to say rebuild time and stuff like that. That's one of the things that they that they added in there. So if you don't turn that one on, then you will not know that function is in there. And there's a lot of different things in here. One of the new things they added that I thought was nice on the sketches was auto rotate view to normal to sketch. What that one does is that when you have that one on, when you open up a new sketch, then Solidworks automatically goes normal too. I mean, there's many times the small things, right? So just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, this is some of the things that you would need to check into if you haven't already spent some time checking into those things. So again, what my plan was for today was really getting into showing that when you're working at a part level with sketches and part, some of these quick shortcuts and stuff like that maybe can make you model a little bit quicker, maybe some tips and tricks, some things you maybe have forgotten about and not seen. That was one of the things that I felt when I was working with SolidWorks, seeing how other people many times modeling things kind of like gave me some idea about where I was, and maybe you see that you are already there, or maybe you can see that you can elevate your game a little bit. What I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to use a couple of PDFs, and again, like I pointed out before, my email address lars@catdimensions.com, that's the place to throw questions at. And these PDFs that I'm going to be using today, I will also email those to you if you send me an email. Really, what we're going to use today is we're going to model up this part here. Now, some of you guys might have seen this part. SolidWorks World, every year, they have a contest called Model Mania. What people do is they get 20 minutes to model up a part, and then they model up a part, and then SolidWorks gives them another drawing with some changes to the part. Because it's very rare that we ever model anything and there's not some kind of an engineering change to it later on. I'm going to use these models today and kind of like use those as my reference when I'm modeling things up. Now, I tried to split the screen up so you could still see the drawing and see SolidWorks. It didn't really work very well, so I'm just going to move this PDF to my other screen. But trust me, it doesn't really matter much that you can't really see all the dimensions. That's not really what we're talking about today. We're more talking about the modeling techniques. But what we have here is, if you look at the top drawing here, we're kind of like going to sketch this part out here. And you can see in here, there's a couple of webs and steps in here we're going to apply into it. So we're going to model this part up. When we model this part up here, we're actually going to get the second model up here, and I'm going to open these PDFs up again when we get to that. And you will see that there's some changes to this part. Like if you look at the section view down here, we will see that there's a couple of bosses that have moved and there's a web that have changed. So that's kind of like what this Model Mania goes out on. You get a model, you model things up, and then they tell you to make a couple of changes. You're now going to deal with all this within 20 minutes in here. So really, I think that this hopefully, and please give me feedback on this, hopefully you will find this helpful, just seeing how some of the techniques for modeling a part up like this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move this over to my other screen. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to open up this metric part template we just created, right? I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to start out up on the front plane here. Now, when I'm going through these different things here, I know again that I might go a little bit fast for some, maybe a little bit slow for others. For the people who think that this goes a little fast, again, let me know, and we will get the video to you, and you can kind of like pause and play through it. But I really hope that just some of you guys will see some tips and tricks. So I'm going to open up a sketch plane, and I'm going to just click on the little white menu here. It's going to go normal to, and I'm a big fan of the S key. The S key was introduced a few years ago. When you hit S on your keyboard, you get this little box out here, and that will come up wherever your cursor is. So that's really handy. One of the things that you will see that I'm going to do is I'm really going to not traveling too much around on menus and drop downs and stuff like that. What is really neat about this S key is that if you right click here, you can customize it. So when you open it up here, you will see that you will get a menu up here, the customized menu. And this S key will actually change depending on if you're in part, assembly, or drawings. So right now I'm in sketches in here, and really the way it works is you just find out all the different menus of what you are after in here. And now it looks like the GoToMeeting is giving me an issue. As you can see here, I can select things. But you can select from this drop down in here and put things on it. And literally what you do is you can literally drag and drop commands on. So if I want to add save to this one, I can just drag it over here and let go, and then it will add the save icon to it, and now that will always be on my S key. Or if I don't want it, I can just grab it and I can just drag it off and let it go, and it will go away. So this will give you an option to completely customize your menu with whatever you want in here. So I'm going to go, it's going to get out of this here, and I'm going to start out with that S key just by hitting the S key, and I'm going to start out with a circle. As anybody knows in SolidWorks, it's always good to have a good sketch in here. So I'm just going to start out by making a couple of circles here, up like this here, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make a couple of two other smaller circles over here. Now here's a trick that some of you guys maybe don't know. I'm just going to window these two here, and I'm going to do a Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste sketches. I don't know if any of you guys ever do that. So that's just like we do in Windows. We highlight something, Control-C will copy it to the clipboard, Control-V will paste it. Now what is really nice of this is that if we're using a command like fully defined sketch, that is sitting right up here, fully defined sketch, then it will actually know that that sketch here was copied from this one, and now it will actually put the relationships of equal. So fully defined sketch is a really neat way to quickly put some dimensions on your part, and now you can go in here and just adjust the dimensions instead of sitting there and playing around and wasting too much time with these adding these dimensions in here. So quickly, I'm just going to add the dimensions that I need for this part here. There's also this one here, and again, this is what is on this PDF. That just bear with me a second. Adding these couple of dimensions onto here. And now I'm going to hit escape, so I'll just get out of my measuring tool, and I can just kind of like clean this up a little bit. But this fully defined sketch, you will like to see, I'm going to use that a couple of times today because it's really a neat way to quickly put dimensions on your sketches. So that is on there. This looks pretty good. This is a fully defined sketch. I have a couple of other things I got to add to this one. I'm going to hit my S key again, and I'm going to use the 3-point arc here. Now, I like the 3-point arc a lot. The magic to it is just to know that things are in order of what you're selecting. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So I'm just going to go over here and select 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to add another one over here too. Like this here. And one over here. Now, when you add these here, anytime you end placing arcs, anybody who's been through my Essentials class is that tangency is the first one you should always add to arcs. If you don't have a tangency to arcs, and they're supposed to be tangency, then that's when your sketches starts folding around themselves and all that kind of stuff. Now, here's a neat way to do that you may or may not know. If I just window these two entities, here comes a neat little pop-up window. And here is the tangency. So I don't have to travel around, do all the, select, control, select. If you're selecting those two entities, you get that pop-up right there. So pretty quickly here, I can go in and add my tangency without holding anything down. I can have my coffee cup in one hand. And this is really what my intention is with this webinar, is really showing you a lot of these quick, small tips here to get things populated. And that little flyout window that comes up there, SolidWorks is actually intelligent enough to know what possibilities there is when you select your different entities. The other thing I'm going to do to this one here is I'm going to make them all, these three arcs equal. So I'm going to select the first one, hold down Control, and multi-select, right? And again, that pop-up comes up with the different ones, and I'm just going to select the equal one here. So again, I choose not to travel around and stuff like that. So now I got 3 equal arcs here, and all I can do now again is I can use the fully defined sketch again. That is actually also on the right-click menu out in space. Fully defined sketch, hit enter, and it will place that dimension right there, and now it's just a matter of me placing that dimension in there. Okay, so pretty quickly, without doing too much traveling around, we got this sketch placed up here. Now I'm just going to drag the PDF in again here in view, so you just can see it, and you will see that there's kind of like some webbings between here. So what I'm going to use here is I'm actually going to offset some sketch entities on our sketch here. Now, offsetting sketch is sitting right up here, offset entities, and I select that one, and as soon as I select it, you will see that the parameters here is already highlighted. So I can type in the value that I need, in my case 3, okay? And now when I select the entity here, see what happens? It automatically puts a little preview here of 3, and if you look at my mouse cursor, on the right is actually a green check mark. So again, I don't have to travel up to any corners to hit the green check mark. I can just hit the right mouse cursor on my mouse. Now when I do that, the command finishes out. You will see that, you've probably seen that around in SolidWorks, that you do something like this and you place one and then the command kind of like ends and goes out. So now you got to travel back up to offset entities and click again and do it again. Well, many people don't know that enter on your keyboard would actually wake that command up again. So I just hit enter, and now I'm right back into the offset entities. So now I can go up and click on this one, hit the right mouse button for hitting the check mark, hit enter again, and you see how it comes back up again. So this is definitely something to write down as a good note, that anytime you see a command jump out, hit enter, and you're back in again. This is actually the sketch that I need, all the sketch entities I need to make this part. Now some people might say that this is a little bit of a messy sketch and there's a lot of stuff going on in here. But I'm actually a big fan of selected contours. So if I go in here, and again, this webinar is an attempt of kind of like taking a step above essentials. So you know, this is, you know, not advanced, but it's getting up there. So when I exit out of my sketch here, when I hit my mouse cursor or my S key now, you will see that it jumped out and now it's actually in part mode. So when I select this extrude command over here, it goes right into the extrude, and because SolidWorks sees that there's multi-selected or multi-sketches, I can now go in here and just select these different entities that I want to use in here. So I'm just going to select these here, right out of that sketch, and now I actually have my 3 basic circles. Now if you're not aware of it, you have this little handle you can drag back and forth here, and as closer you are to that ruler, it will actually snap into place. So in my case, I want to go 20 millimeters, and I can actually hit the green mouse button and there, or my right mouse button, and now I got my 3 circles. Actually, you see that I've actually misselected down here. So, you know, I got to select what I misselected in here. So let me just click down on the contours. I'm supposed to get that there. That's better. That's the 3 rings we need, right? So I sketched everything, and I only took this out with the selected contours. Now, I'm going to use that same sketch again. So I can just go down here, select this sketch that we created, and again, if I hit the S key and go into my extrude, it will wake that one up again with the selected contours. So now I'm going to select another portion. What is these edges here? Hit the right mouse button to select that or change the length. Now, if you're not too happy with this handle here, some people are kind of like a little bit like that it's hard to find in here. Be aware of that as soon as you hit this arrow, it actually highlights this one over here. So you can actually just type in what you need in that case. I'm going to show you that again. So I'm going to go into 12. That's actually what I want, this webbing here. Hit the right mouse button, and I did that. I'm going to do it again to do the inner portion here. So I'm going to select that sketch, hit the S key, extrude, and now I'm selecting these 2 faces in here. And as soon as I select this arrow, I am in the place where I can type in my value. So again, I don't have to travel over to my properties over to my right. So with 1 sketch and 3 features, I pretty much got this part down right now. If we just bring it back over again, the only thing that I need to put in on this part is some fillets. And fillets is one of the ones that we many times get questions about. They can be a little bit difficult to put in. My trick is that, first of all, when I hit the fillet tool, that's when I enter what my fillet is supposed to be. I like to do it before I actually select anything, in my case 1.5. And then my rule is to select features. If I can select features, If I can't select features, then I go for faces. And if I can't go for faces, then I'm going to go and select edges. So in this case here, I'm just going to select these faces here. Hit the green check mark, and I have applied the fillets I need for that. A neat trick that Solidworks uses on the Model Mania part is that they actually add a color to the fillet. Just by right-click and hit the beats ball here, I can actually go in and change the color on my fillets. I'm going to do that again on the next part. And that's just a nice way for you to quickly just get an overview over what is fillets and what is not fillets on a part. So that's a pretty quick way to validate it. So that was really the first part of the Model Mania for 2013, was to model this part up here. And I hope that you picked up some good tips and tricks. Now, the hard thing about the Model Mania part is not necessarily modeling up the part. It's really more when they come and they give you the change, right? So now they're coming up and say, all right, that was all good. Now make these changes. So what the changes are to our model is that these two round bars have been moved down. The big one have been moved 4 millimeters, and the second one is down 8 millimeters. And then this one webbing here have been switched size. So that's really the things we've got to do. Now, like I said earlier, we all are running into these issues in SolidWorks where there's a design change, right? And when you get these, many times, you have a tendency to just, you really just wish you could start over, right? Or had known this or something like that. I think that when you're using new techniques and trying to get better at things, sometimes it's a way to kind of like slow down and just think before we act, right? Many times we have this tendency to just, we want to get something on the screen, but just slowing down a half a step, we can many times utilize what we already have. So one of the great features in SolidWorks with heavy parametric modeling is I can roll back on this bar over here. Right? So when I roll back now, we actually have our free rings. Well, there is a lot of neat things in SolidWorks. One of my favorite things is actually this new search tool that they added up here, so we can search for commands. And if I go in here and I search for move, we actually get the move copy bodies tool up here. That is also found under insert features. Okay. Now, if we select that tool, it kind of like has two faces to it, just so you're aware. It normally opens up with the constraints in here, and then it has another side to it down here where it kind of like can just translate. That's the one we're going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this body here, and again I get handles so I can move these bodies back and forth. I can of course also just type in here. So I'm going to type -4. That's going to move that one, and now we just move that center one back. Now did you see what happened? It placed that move copy right underneath our feature here, right? Now, another thing that happened was that it actually moved out of that command. Now we have to go in, and I hit escape, so that's why it's not hitting enter. It's not going to bring me back in again. That gives me an opportunity to show where it actually is located. Insert features, and if you roll down to the move copy tool, that's it is. And now I can go and select the second one here and make it -8. Now, anytime you're doing things like this, where you are rolling back and you're moving features in, it's always a little scary to see what's going to happen when you roll down to the end, right? But in our case here, you can see how using this move copy tool up here, move my 2 rings back. Okay? This is not a bad modeling practice at all using these techniques, and they are really, really quick, right? I made some major changes to this part right here doing this. Now, I'm going to make a couple of other changes. What I got to do is I got to take this pocket here and actually flip it over on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll on top of my fillet here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we know fillets can be a little tricky. So now that is out of memory. And I'm going to go into that feature where we created that web. And I'm just going to deselect that face in here. So now this feature here only contains that webbing there. And then I'm going to insert it as a second one. So I'm going to select our first sketch again, and I'm going to go ahead here and use my normal extrude as we looked before. Now, here's a thing that I hope some of you guys have already noticed, is all the nice options we have in here, in our property options in here. So I selected that first sketch I created. So the first one, starting from the top working way down, is actually where is your sketch coming from. You can sketch on one plane, but actually have your sketch starts on a completely other one. So if I hit this drop down, I actually get different options. So though that I have a sketch on the front plane, I can actually choose that that sketch is going to start from this intersection right here. Okay? And I'm just going to select it down here first. So now it's starting from there. So now I can flip the direction. We're all familiar with that. And it is blind 3 millimeters. But just so you're aware, there's also other options down here. And these are definitely worth being aware of. I could say offset from surface and select that back surface there. And I could even type in math. So I know that the first shelf was 12, and then I would say minus the 3 and type that in. And that would actually give me that offsetted shelf. So that's a really neat trick that hopefully doing a census class you kind of like saw that, and you now remember that you have those neat functions. Now I roll down to the bottom here, and we can see that our fillets are yelling at us a little bit. So really what we have to do here is just reselect certain faces. So we can go over here because we made some changes, select these here, and Solidworks will actually come up and say if it had missing entities and try to replace and remove them themselves. And in this way here, I got the changes to my part. So I hope, modeling up this part here, that you saw some neat things that you weren't aware of when it comes to modeling up, kind of like some of these pop-up windows and stuff like that, that I believe kind of like takes you, to another level. I also decided that I wanted to show you a couple more tricks. So what I actually decided to do was also taking the Model Mania 12 files, and again, this video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. You email us at catdimensions.com, and I will send you the link for that, and I can also send you these PDFs. So 2012, so last year, the model looked a little bit different. Again, these models are not too complicated, but if you look at the front view here, there's a little bit of stuff going on with the sketch in here. And if you look at the top views, kind of like the two ones you kind of like want to pay attention to, just to show you the things that then changed on that part was that we're going to have a straight line here. There's a little boss to stick out and some different changes to it. We're going to get to that. So we're going to start out with this one here. And again, a solid sketch in SolidWorks is really where our powers are. So I'm going to open up our metric document again. That's what they do these models in. And I'm going to start another sketch right on the front plane here. Open that up there. And again, S key, right? And do a couple of circles here. I'll start out by doing a couple of circles right on the origin. Now what I'm actually going to do with this one, I'm going to copy this one also. I'm going to select it, but I'm going to hold down Control and drag it right from the center point. You can also do that right there. And it's going to try to set the little relationships here. Whoops. See? There we go. And then I'm going to add another circle right here. And I'm going to, again, use the fully defined sketch. Right-click on my outer space and fully defined sketch. The neat thing about fully defined sketch is that you can actually also use it on multiple times doing your design. So what is really neat about that is that it gives you an option to kind of like as you're modeling things up or sketching things up, to kind of like use this and kind of like control that things don't get too overcomplicated, what this sometimes can do when you're using it. If you're sketching everything up at once, you might find that this looks a little bit crazy. So I would definitely make sure that I like to do it kind of like in steps. So you kind of like get the first couple of things down here, use the fully defined sketch as a quick way to get the dimensions in, and then when you're done this, we can continue sketching. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit my S key, get a line, sketch a line out, and then I'm going to go into a tangent arc, and hopefully most people know that the A key will actually do that. So now that becomes the A key right there. I'm going to snap that one in. Again, we need a tangency relationship right there. So that was that one. I'm going to go in and do another 3-point arc between here, click here, here, and this, and this here. And again, then it's just a matter of adding a couple of tangencies. between the different parts here. See how fast I can do that. Okay, and now if I want to be lazy, I can go in and use that fully defined sketch again. Now again, it exists up here, but I prefer to right click out in space and just hit it down here and hit enter, and now you get these here. So now again, I don't have to place any dimensions. I can literally just go in here and correct a few dimensions that I need to get corrected in here. Just like this here, I got a model here that we can use here. So I'm going to exit out of the sketch. Again, I'm going to hit the S key, hit the extrude here. Now here's another thing that you maybe didn't know. Franco showed it at the What's New 2013. If I right click here out in space, actually all these options down here is all the options that we have over to the left. So I can quickly decide here I'm going to do it from the midplane, and then again I can select the contours and select the contour here that I want to use. And if I hit the arrow, then I'm ready to type in my value right here, and right mouse button, and there I go. There's my main thing. And that was really the model Mania was where most people had problems, was modeling this part up here. I'm going to go in and use a couple of other commands here. I'm going to open up another sketch up on the top plane here, and go in and use my line tool. I'm just going to go ahead here, sketch a line out, go into a tangent arc by hitting the A key. And then I'm just going to close this sketch up here. And now while I'm in my line tool here, I'm actually going to create a line right from the midpoint because I want to use mirror. And if you didn't know, if you click on a line, right here is actually switching between construction line and solid line too. So that's kind of like a nice command too. Now all I have to do now is place a couple of dimensions on the sketch here. And I'm going to use mouse gestures. I don't know how many people remember about mouse gestures. You're holding down your right mouse button and start moving it while you're holding down the right mouse button, and you get this little wheel, and you can now select different commands. So I can just move up, and then I'm in my arc tool or in my measuring tool here. So I'm going to do this 20. It stays in here, so now I can go over and place my other dimensions here. So this one's going to be here, and this one's going to be 65. And what I'm going to do now is hit escape. Now I'm just going to highlight the whole thing and mirror. Right, so now I'll just mirror it over that center line I did because Solidworks is smart enough to know that. Exit out of my sketch, hit the S key. This time it's going to be a cut. And again, right-click out in space. I can now select the through all. So just to know that these tools are right there to make life handy for us. I'm going to go ahead and add another feature here. So I'm going to open up another sketch. In this case here, I'm going to use my center rectangle on the S key. So my other favorite tools. I'm just going to start here, make sure that I select this, make it coincident with this silhouette edge here. And I'm going to add a couple of more dimensions to this one. Again, I can use the mouse gesture, holding down the wheel here, the right mouse button, and move up. Actually, that mouse gesture can actually be completely customized if you're not aware of it. So if I go over to my Customize tab, it's found right up here, go to Customize. Right over here is the mouse gestures, and you can actually make it go up with 8 parts in it. And all you do in here is that you can kind of like select different things. So like you can filter through things here. You can find different features in here. So if you want to always maybe selection would maybe be one of them. Whoops, if you can spell. So if you go in here and take the select, I could choose to always have that on my right pie crossed here. So if I select that there and hit OK, you will now see, first of all, my wheel had 8, and then you will see that the white mouse cursor is right over there. I'm going to hold it down, go to measure, and I'm just going to place a couple of dimensions here. So this one is actually coming from the center of the hole, it's 35, and this one here is going to be 8. Then I'm going to show you one of my other favorite sketch relations tools. So you can see here that this sketch is kind of like traveling up and down here. One of my favorite sketch relations is symmetry. So if I go over here and I create a line from my origin and just make sure that it's horizontal, click here and change it over to construction geometry. Now if I hold down control, so like point, line, point, then you get the symmetry. and now it's symmetry over that line. That's really a powerful relationship to know that you can apply in there. Go ahead here, make that a cut also. Click here, right click, and do through all. And now all we really have to do on this part is adding some other fillets. Now here's a new thing for 2013 that I hope that some of you guys have already discovered. If I go up to fillet here, and in my case these fillets are going to be 2 millimeters, so I'm going to type that in before I select anything. If you select an edge, you actually get this new edge selection toolbar up here. It used to be in the Fillet Expert, but they brought it over here, but it's a really handy tool. If I roll over here, you will see that SolidWorks pre-selects all the different edges that you can select in here. Okay, so you can find something that you like in here. In my case here, I really like this one here, so I'm going to select this one. However, there is a couple of edges that I don't want, the inner holes, and I can just simply go over here and deselect them out of here when I don't want them. Okay, so I can just go over here and deselect these out of here, and there's actually a couple that I did want. So with tangent propagation turned on, over in my options, I can go over here and select these here, and then now it's applying my fillets. So that accent selection toolbar throws a lot of neat fillets on that. Again, just like they do at the SolidWorks, right click, hit the beach ball, coloring your edges, your fillets can really make life easy to kind of like see the different fillets. So that was the first portion of the model Mania part here. That's kind of like the first one that you wanted to see, and then again they throw the curveball on this part here and gives us one last change. Now the biggest thing to this change here that I'm going to point out is that the radius changed. That's what things going to be fun, and this is why I'm going to show you a neat trick in SolidWorks. And also this 12 have changed from 14 to 12. And then we actually have this cylindrical box that's going to come out too. That's really the major things that changed on this part here. So I'm going to go in and just click on this part and say Edit Sketch. That's going to take me into my first sketch in here. And I'm going to use the Trim tool and the Auto Trim. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this edge, just hold down my left mouse button and drag it over. It kind of like trims it to right here. Okay, so this one here is actually live. That's one of the things you can do with the Trim tool. You can move this around. Now, I do that. When I change this dimension to 30, that's when the fun begins. Change this one to 30, and this happens. Right? We've all seen this, right? This is when we start like, oh my goodness, undo, undo, undo. Well, this is actually, SolidWorks actually have a very neat tool for this kind of stuff when your sketches gets over-defined or unsolvable in any way. Down here, you have this little that says no solution found, or it says Sketch Expert. That's actually what you can activate if you just left-click down here, Sketch Expert appear. And if you hit Diagnose, then it's actually going to go in and try to find out what can change, what do we need to delete on this part. In our case here, this is actually what I want. It found that it could delete possibly this relationship is what's causing my error. But if I hit the little arrow down here, you can see that it actually gives us different solution to fix our problem. So this is a really neat tool to know about the Sketch Expert. This is the one I want. I'm just going to hit Accept. And just like that, SolidWorks is happy again because it deleted that relationship. I'm going to hit my S key, get my line tool here, and all I'm going to do is create a line out, and then all I have to do is reattach this one, drag this one up here, do a little window and put a relationship there, change this one down to 12, and that was really one of the major hurdles that happened for this part here. There's a couple of other changes I got to add in here. This length have changed from 65 to 85, so that got a little longer, and also this edge here is from 35 to 18. Now what this does is that it actually gives me a little arrow on the fillet here. Now when you get these arrows on the fillet, fillets are normally the last thing you do in your part. If you have other things you need to do to the part, like I have that cylindrical boss I got to add in here that they added over on the side here. this cylindrical boss over here, then what I normally choose to do is I just roll above my fillet. Forget about your fillet right now. To do that cylindrical one, well, I'm actually going to reuse that first sketch we had. So I'm going to select that sketch, go into extrude boss here, select these two circles, and again, remember if I right-click out the space out here, I can do mid-plane. It already remembered that it was 24 in length, and there's my feature there. Now, when I drag down to my fillet is still giving me this warning here, and actually what I have is I have a couple of edges that needs to be reselected here. So I just got to go in and reselect a couple of edges and let it fix those last one, and then I actually get the part here. Now here's an interesting thing. When I did that last boss extrude, it actually applied a round, I don't know how good it comes up on the webinar, a round circular that is cutting through there, but I need to have that whole thing going stretched down. Don't forget that we can reorder things in our tree. If I drag this operation beneath the extrude, you will now see that it's straight there. Okay, let me drag it up again so you can kind of like see that there is the cylindrical going all the way through, and don't forget that we can reorder things through there. That was kind of like the techniques to do the Model Mania parts. Again, I hope that I didn't go way too fast. Again, the videos are going to be available on our YouTube channel. If you do go to write me an email, I'll make sure you get the link to that, and you can definitely go through that. I hope I didn't go too slow either. I would really like if anybody had any time to give me some feedback if this was really a decent session, that you felt like you learned something from it. So I would definitely like to get your feedback on that. We hit here 46 minutes. That was kind of like what I was hoping to be within. So again, thank you so much for attending. Lars at catdimensions.com. I'll make sure you get the link for the video. You can kind of like pause through it. I can make sure you get the PDFs that I use from the Model Mania. And I really hope that that you found this helpful. So thank you so much, everybody, for sitting with us here today. I hope that you guys have an awesome day and have some fun with some 3D fun with SolidWorks. Thank you so much. Anybody have? I would prefer questions per email, but I mean, if anybody fired up some questions here while we're going through, I'll definitely be more than happy to try to answer them. But again, send me an email would probably be my be my preferred choice. Thank you so much, guys.